Hello and welcome, Vladimir Vlade, aka the Bulgarian Cowboy. And got to say that today we have a very, very sad news for the world of mixed martial arts, for the world of kickboxing, and for every single fighting world. Because if you follow this lovely sport, Branko Cikatic was the modern pioneer of this sport. The guy who participated at Pride FC and the guy who took part in a lot of kickboxing championships fights. The first K1 World Grand Prix champion. Unfortunately, he is not in this world anymore. He passed away today at the age of 65. Well, in his K1 and Pride FC, he was striking wet without a ground game. That's what everybody remembers. I mean, his match versus Mark Kerr, there was so many rule breaking, elbows to the back of the head and running for his life and so on. But ground game didn't need him in the early days of MMA. K1 champion in Pride gave the company, well, it gave them a major fighting star, He was representing his fighting style. He was amazingly known in Japanese sports world. And later he was a coach of Crow Cup, 1 year ago, Crow Cup barely survived the stroke, but unfortunately Branko Cikatic, or Cikatic, however you call him, Parkinson's disease was just too much for him. He had more than 27 fights. He was 39 years old when he kicked off his Pride FC career. And during his prime, both kickboxing, MMA, it was kind of small sport, It was not like it was today. Because if it was, he would have been the major star. But avid fans like me, we will never forget him. And he kicked off his martial arts career in 1966. He was only 12 years old. Shotokan, karate, taekwondo, judo, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai experience, and 1979 he was the Waku European champion and in contact karate world championship in the same sport. He defeated Ray McCallum and due to disqualification, but he won it anyway. There were many big fights. Don Wilson, the Dragon, the actor, he knocked him out in 1987. He fought to a draw with Denis Alexiev, the greatest star of kickboxing back at that era. Well, I was literally having 1 or 2 years when this fight happened, but on April 13th, 1993, in April, I wasn't watching it live, but I remember that match because I watched it on VHS maybe a few months later, and Jojogi National Gym match that aired live on Fuji Network. It was a history because he was the first Croatian guy who fought at such event, and it was the amazing guy, the first K1 World Grand Prix in Tokyo, and he won, man. He won in 1997 at Tokyo Dome. Well, he had a kickboxing match on the first Pride show, which was headlined by Rickson Gracie's win over pro wrestling superstar Nobuhiko Takada. And Cikatic, he defeated Ralph White. But he kicked him, he kicked Ralph White while he was on the ground. And the fight was ruled no contest, but he broke the rule. Technically, he won that fight, but broke the rule. And generally, Cikatic continually in the match against Mark Kerr, which is known. He only had 2 MMA fights, but against Mark Kerr, who was then many thought that he was the best heavyweight in the world. He was a wrestling champ, and I was talking about that smashing machine faced the first K1 champion in the main event of the second Pride event, and it ended kind of into controversy because Cikatic was holding onto the ropes to stop takedowns. He didn't listen to the referee when he was warned. One point was abducted. At another point, he was holding through the ropes to avoid a takedown. At another point, Kerr was working for a takedown. He held the ropes and threw illegal elbows to the back of the head, and fans were booing. Branko was disqualified, and he returned on September 12th, 1999. just weeks before his 45th birthday to face Maurice Smith, Wood, former champion K1 star. But Smith had great ground training back then, and he has already held the UFC heavyweight title and the title in extreme fighting. And he defeated Mark Coleman, And in the matchup of two kickboxing legends, Smith was smart. He took Cikatic down and won via submission in 7:33. And yeah, it was a great forearm choke by Smith. So unfortunately, it was Cikatic's last fight, but his influence has never stopped, His influence has never stopped because during his career, he has a score of 152 wins, 15 losses, and 3 draws in kickboxing with 138 knockouts in amateur kickboxing multi fights, and as a pro, 87-9-1, 82 knockouts, 1 draw, 1 no contest, man. He was just too good. He was just too good. Just too good. And Krokap, he was his student, He became an even bigger star in Japan and the greatest fighter out of the Balkan Peninsula. It was the most popular foreign fighter back then at the Pride Fighting Championships, and he became a legend of Croatia and a legend of Balkan Peninsula. Unfortunately, Cikatic's health and it worsened in recent years. He faced pulmonary embolism. I think you call it that way. He faced Parkinson's disease, and it was just too much. And legends will never be forgotten, if you ask me. Legends will never be forgotten, and I enjoyed your fights, brother. I'm sorry because it had to happen that way, but I enjoyed your fights, and I enjoyed your influence to this lovely sport. So thank you for everything you brought to this sport. Thank you for tutoring Mirko Krokap, because I am still a fan of Mirko Krokap, because if there was no you, there would have never been Mirko Krokap. So thank you once again. You will always be the legend, and you will always be the best thing martial arts brought, because I will never forget that you tutored Mirko Krokap and that you made him the most famous fighter from Balkan Peninsula. It all happened thanks to you. Thank you, Branko, and I hope you're in some better place now.